like that, this kind of takes a different turn. I'm also trained in various aspects of health and safety, so I'm going to give off to you a little bit of that I gained from a program called Team Steps. Now, the objectives that we have for this program is to talk about high-performing teams. What gets them to survive in these types of dangerous situations? We're going to talk about overall workplace violence. Steve is really going to talk about situational awareness, and then we'll have a question and answer period. This is all meant to kind of piggyback on the stuff that we learned this morning if you attended those sessions. Please feel free to ask questions as we go along as well. But this is meant to give you tools as a frontline person to help yourself and help your colleagues keep safety in the forefront of your consciousness. So who are high-performance teams? We're talking about people who are kind of like the New York Yankees. If you're not a New York Yankees fan, let's just say the New York Mets. No, New York, no? No? Okay. Or police officers. And also on the bottom, we have the Navy SEALs. How do these teams survive? Okay, how do these teams go into these types of high-risk environments and get out alive, and in a lot of cases without any losses? All right. What you're going to be learning are a lot of the techniques that are taught to the Navy SEALs, taught to a lot of military people. Now, are any of you ex-military? Any of you? No? No, no, no? Okay. If you were, or if you have somebody in your family who is, you could run this by them later, and it's likely going to be a bit familiar. Okay? So, high-performance teams have what's called extreme ownership. In other words, it's not about them. Like, could you imagine going on a mission, okay, with the Navy SEALs and having a situation where you're expecting this person to have your back, but they're all disgruntled about their divorce or something like that, right? So here you are, you're with your gun, you're going forward, and then this guy's like, "Oh man, I'm so messed up about my divorce." What's going to happen to you? Yeah, you're probably not going to make it, okay, because his head is elsewhere. Or somebody who's all about me. "Oh, well, you know, I'm the best Navy SEAL out here. Look at me. Look at how wonderful I am." What do you think is going to happen to that person? Again, they're thinking more about themselves and not about the team. In high-performance teams, you have to have extreme ownership. You have to check your ego at the door, okay? It's not about you. The first thing is the mission. What is the mission? After that comes your team, and after that comes you. And that's how a lot of companies run by these ex-military people function. This is why a lot of them are successful, because the mission is always at the forefront of their brain. So in short, everyone is a leader. Some of the things that we're going to talk about really have to do with this thing called mutual support. We're going to talk about cross-monitoring, which is providing a safety net for team members to prevent errors or misses. We're going to talk about brief, huddles, debriefs. We're also going to be giving you a couple of tools in at least my section called the 2-challenge rule and cuss. I'm going to teach you how to cuss, okay? And to resolve information conflicts. We are then going to move into de-escalation techniques in my portion. So when it comes to communicating, a lot of military teams and high-performance teams, they have these sessions called brief, huddles, and debriefs. Now, a brief is known as a brief because it's very short in duration, okay? What do these teams do? Okay, so in a hospital setting, if you go to Overlook, if you go to Meridian Healthcare, especially Meridian, I know for a fact that at 10 a.m. they have their morning brief. Why? Because they're trained in this program. And so at 10 a.m., the entire team gets together. And they have a brief, which is no more than 2 minutes, okay, where they talk about the hot plate issues of the day, who's going to be assigned roles and goals for things, and they just have a basic session of communication in the morning. All right? Now, why is it so important to assign roles and goals to people every day? Aside from your regular job, any little changes that are going to be taking place, they are going to assign someone to it. We do that because we want to avoid what's known as passenger syndrome. Do you know what passenger syndrome is? Any idea? Okay. Maybe over the holidays you experienced it. Let's just say Target on 22, okay? Can somebody please open up? How many people show up? Nobody, right? Can somebody please open up at the cashier line, please? Who's going to show up? And until I say, hey, Megan, can you please come over here and open up? Okay, guess who's going to show up? And that's how you avoid passenger syndrome. You actually have to assign people to it. And in a brief, that's when things like that happen. It's done to assign roles, responsibilities, discuss team formation, share the plan, establish expectations and climate, anticipate outcomes and likely contingencies. But then, what if a problem arises during the day? Again, I could give you a hospital as an easy setting, or even a university. Say there's a problem, okay, a suspicious package. I don't know, a patient runs off, you know, in his gown in the middle of I don't know. Think of whatever scenario, okay? That's when you would call a huddle, all right? So when we're talking about a huddle, it's literally somebody says, okay, guys, anybody in the vicinity, please huddle up. And everybody, from the janitor to the director of fire safety to student, like anybody who's trained in this program knows to be alerted to that term. They come together and they discuss the problem, and then again, roles and goals are assigned at that moment to resolve the problem. So I could tell you that that in a hospital setting, a lot of the heart attacks and a lot of the strokes that are prevented are actually prevented by frontline employees who are not clinical. Did you know that? Okay, so in other words, your dietary person or the person who's cleaning your room, they see you on a daily basis and they get to know you pretty well, all right? So when they see that you're off, they are now empowered because of these types of communication tools to now say, everybody huddle up, and then the doctor, the nurses, the social worker, who's ever in the vicinity comes together and says, Mrs. Smith doesn't look right today. Something is off with her. And you have to take that person seriously. You have to check into it, because I would much rather be wrong and look like a fool than to be right and then regret it, right? So it's the same sort of thing. You see a suspicious package, if there's anybody in the vicinity, can somebody huddle up over here? And anybody who is in the vicinity of you who hears that should respond to it. You then have somebody who could also be an ally, pick up 911, do all the other stuff that you're being taught as well, but this is another thing to think about. So a huddle is an ad hoc meeting to reestablish situational awareness, reinforce plans that might already be in place, and assess the need to adjust the plan. Once the emergency is over, these high-performance teams will have something called a debrief. And what that debrief is that people will now get together and talk about what happened. That is one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is that when situations happen, they fix it and then they don't talk about it. Why is that a problem? Why? Answer me, I can't hear you. What if it happens again? Okay, what did you just learn? Did you learn anything? No. Did you discuss it? No. So the biggest thing about problems is that that a lot of the times people don't really talk about it after it gets fixed. During a debrief, trust me, after a mission, these Navy SEALs are talking about what went right, what went wrong. I can't say that. What went right, what went wrong. Okay, what went right, what went wrong, and how can we make it better? These are three things that you always want to ask yourself. Whenever there's a problem and you have a team of people working on it, you have to debrief. Okay, what did we do correctly? What did we do wrong? What can we do to make it better? And again, your ego cannot get into play. It might get into play in your head, but you can't, I mean, like, honestly, in order for it to work, everybody has to be a willing participant to learn from their mistakes. So in other words, if Steve, Megan, and I all went in and started working on this problem, at the end of it, I would say, hey, Steve, you know, this is what you did excellent. Steve, this is what you could do to make it better. Here's what you did wrong, okay? And Steve will be open to listen to that. Same thing with Megan, and then they're allowed to do that to me too. Doesn't matter if you're the president of the university or the person who works here per diem. You have the power to do that when it comes to these types of situations, okay? So this is one of the things that they do every day. Again, you have to think about how you can implement it or change it to, you know, maybe tweak it a little bit to fit into what you do, but it's something that I would obviously suggest. There is also this process of cross-monitoring. Okay, you're providing a safety net within your team, and basically you're watching each other's backs. Again, in the military, as you saw with you know, the director of police safety, or police rather, you saw him say that, listen, we're going to send out the canine unit, but who's protecting the guy who's taking care of the canine? Okay, we're going to send two people out so that there's somebody protecting him as well. So again, there's this watch each other's back type of mentality. Now, how do you watch each other's backs? First of all, you have to be present. But also, you have to be willing to challenge people as well, okay? In other words, here, I will give you an example. At one of the assisted livings that I trained, the reason that they brought me there was because there was a high mortality rate, okay? So let's just put it this way. There's this thing called a Hoyer lift. Do you know what that is? A Hoyer lift? Anybody ever hear of this? Okay, if you are bedridden, there's a lift made up of all these straps that will pull you out of bed so that you could take a bath and you could get toileted and all this other stuff, right? So the protocol is to have 2 people, okay, to take you out of the bed on the Hoyer lift. If you don't have 2 people, you're out of protocol and there's a risk. What's the risk? You could fall down, right? So here I am, and the reason they brought me in is because the CNAs, the certified nursing assistants, and the nurses have this mentality that they're understaffed and therefore only one person is allowed to do it if they want to. Again, this breaks from protocol, and what happened was that the person fell out of the Hoyer lift, broke several bones, and a few hours later she died. All right, so it happens all the time. It's scary. Now, one of the nurses goes by, or no, it was one of the CNAs goes by and says, hey, listen, you know, there's supposed to be 2 people, not 1. And what do you think the CNA who was taking the person out of onto the Hoyer lift said to her? This is not your job. This is my job. Mind your own business. Okay? And whose safety is at risk? The patient's. Okay? Not only that, but she's also at risk too, because now what's going to happen to her if something happens? She's going to get sued. Her career's over. She's going to lose her license, period. So when I say watching each other's backs, what I'm trying to tell you is that in safety situations, I want you to stick your nose in. Stick your nose in. There's no mind your own business type of mentality, all right? And here's what you tell people. This is not about you. This is not about me. It's about the safety of the students in the university, period. And if they say, mind your own business, what do you say back? I'm just checking to make sure you listened. This is not about you. This is not about me. This is about the safety of the students in the university, period. What are they going to say back to that? Like, what are they going to go and say? Oh, well, I'm going to tell my director that you told me that it's not about you and not about me, but the safety of the university. Well, really? Go ahead. Okay? Listen, like I said, I'd rather you be wrong than to be right. So when we're talking about the 2-challenge rule, you have to realize that everybody has a leadership position when it comes to safety. If you suspect a breach of safety, I want you to stop the line. I want you to be that person who says, listen, I don't think that you should be lifting up that person by yourself. And if that person says, well, I'm fine, I want you to assert yourself not once, but twice, in a very serious tone. I want you to say, listen, I really don't want you lifting up that person by yourself. And if that person says, mind your own business, you know what the response is. Okay, if that person says, if you are sitting there and you see a suspicious package or whatever the safety situation is, you say, hey, listen, maybe we should check that out. If the person says, no, that's all right, it's fine, it's probably somebody who just forgot, listen, I really think we should check that out. Even if it's the director, I don't care. You assert yourself twice. That is known as a 2-challenge rule. When you say something once, a lot of people think it's easy to ignore. But when you say it twice, very assertively, people have a very hard time ignoring that because now they know you're serious. Okay, so again, that's called a 2-challenge rule. There's another piece of information that because you're all being trained in this, you will now recognize that if I say these sets of words exactly how I'm telling you right now, this is kind of like your blaring red flag, like the alarm bell is going off. So listen, there's a suspicious package here. I think we should check it out. Oh, don't worry about it. Listen, I'm concerned. I'm uncomfortable with what this looks like. I think it's a safety issue. Let's get it checked out. When you hear that combination of words, basically what are they telling you? They're telling you, listen, I don't care what you think. I don't care who you are. We're getting it checked out. All right? And it's a very assertive way of letting the person know that. So that's known as cussing. In the military, in high-performance teams, this is a very, very common set of words that they use. I'm concerned. I'm uncomfortable with what's happening. I think this is a safety issue. Let's get it checked. And they use that in combination with the 2-challenge rule. Am I making myself clear, or anybody have any questions about this? No? We're good? Okay. When somebody uses, stop whatever you're doing and you must listen. Now, de-escalation techniques. When somebody is getting upset, I want you to realize that there are some things that you could look out for to tell you what stage they're in and some things that you could do to try to calm them down a little bit. First of all, I need you to be aware of how you're reacting. If you are frazzled and all upset, trust me, people mirror each other off with this thing called emotional contagion. It's very well documented. So please be conscious of your physical, mental, and emotional state. Realize that when people get angry, typically the emotions that are driving that is that somebody is hurt by something or somebody is scared that something's not going to happen. A lot of the times, if somebody is upset, they have this psychological phenomenon known as the imagined audience. Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of this imagined audience? Do you know what that is? Okay, so it was years ago. I was on the Garden State Parkway. It was East Orange. They have this overpass, and this guy was threatening to jump, right? They closed off all traffic, and of course, because all the traffic is closed off for hours, now what is everybody doing? Getting out of their cars, and where do you think they're walking to? To see the guy go, okay? And I couldn't believe it. There were people who were like, jump, jump, jump. I mean, like, and I was like, what? What's wrong with people, right? Now, what do you think what do you think this situation of having a crowd did to this person? Do you think it shortened it or lengthened? It lengthened it by a lot, okay? And then in this situation, I'm talking about a real crowd, but think about getting reprimanded in an office environment around. Do you work in a cubicle environment, or do you know what that's like, right? You know what it looks. Watch Office Space, you'll know. Okay, so here you are, you're in the cubicle environment, right? And then all of a sudden somebody says something to you in an angry voice. Even though you don't see anybody else popping their head up like a gopher out of the cubicle, yeah? You imagine in your head that everybody is what? And it will actually drive your behavior. It will start making it more extreme. So again, one of the things that I want you to realize, there's two big points here. Be aware of your emotions. Be aware of your physical and mental state. Try to keep yourself calm. Also be aware that if there is a real crowd, or if there is an imagined audience in this person's head, which likely there will be, it will also typically drive the behavior further. A lot of the responses to anger can be internalized or externalized. When we're talking about internalized emotion, the person begins to isolate themselves verbally. They perseverate. That's your vocabulary word for the day, perseverate. What does perseverate mean? It means that they dwell on the same thought over and over and over again. So a lot of the times when you're seeing somebody get angry, this typically social person will be by themselves at their desk, ruminating, perseverating over what's just happened. They will stop looking like Barbie and will start looking more like Keith Richards, yes? Okay? They start neglecting or Ozzy Osbourne if you like Keith Richards, whatever you want. Okay, so they start neglecting self-care. They begin to isolate themselves. They don't socialize anymore. Some people will externalize the emotion. They'll get aggressive. Some will assault people. Some will stir the pot. Do you know what stirring the pot means? You'll have that person who is upset about what happened, and what they'll start doing is trying to get allies to be upset too, and they'll try driving the team towards them to get angry as well so that they could claim revolution or whatever. So sometimes people externalize the emotion as well. During this time, some things to do, okay, is to stay calm. One thing is to be compassionate. Put yourself in their shoes. Okay, you have to realize that you obviously are not in their shoes, but try to understand what they're feeling. Active listening. They're probably going to talk. Try to be present. Try to listen to what they're saying and redirect aggressive or passive-aggressive behavior by saying, listen, let's talk about solutions to this. Try to not be fearful and don't take the bait. A lot of the times when people are angry, they will insult you. They will say horrible things to you to try to get you upset. It doesn't work. Does it work with some people? Yes, it does. Okay? So you don't want to fall into that trap. They're setting you up. Offer solutions and contracting. Listen, if we are able to solve this, then maybe we could set up XYZ situation for this never to happen again. And when you contract with somebody, typically they tend to calm down as well. The early signs of anger tend to be physiological. And you'll see it. They'll start turning red because basically, if you went to my emotions class, you understand that whenever something happens, it goes to this little part of your brain known as the amygdala first, which is kind of like your fight or flight center. It's your emotional brain, for lack of better words. And then it triggers all of your autonomic nervous system, especially in a negative one. Your blood pressure increases, your heart rate increases, your breathing increases, your digestion stops, and you start turning red. Your jaw starts going, that nerve, that vein at the top of your head or wherever starts bulging out. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yes? So you'll start seeing these early warning signs. Sometimes what you're also going to see is repetitive behaviors like tapping, okay, or pacing. These should kind of be like your first little red flag. Uh-oh, this person's getting upset. And the typically talkative person is no longer talking or making eye contact. The best things for you to do at this point is to listen to what the person says, try to be supportive. Listen, I'm on your side. Let's get this solved, okay? And stay solution focused for the person. Now, if they tend to escalate more, they're going to be verbally or physically getting aggressive with you. Threats. Well, I'm going to come over here and kill you. Yes? And I know that some departments have actually heard this because they've told me they've heard this, okay? I'm going to come over there and do this to you. I'm going to come over there and do that to you. That is your middle stage of anger. And if you see that face, run in the opposite direction. Run for the hills, okay? Pounding their desks, pounding your desk maybe. How do you respond to this? Well, I'm not going to speak to this one too much because I'm going to let Steve handle it, but you have to have this thing called situational awareness. Do you know what situational awareness is? I'll tell you people who don't have it, okay? Have you ever been to the ShopRite in Short Hills on Morris Turnpike? Do you know what I'm talking about? Maybe your ShopRite. That's my definition of hell, okay? So here you are in the aisle, right? You're in the aisle, and this place is very small as opposed to the population that it serves. And there's always that person who puts their cart right in the middle and then walks away. This person not only is not mindful of others, but they might lack the situational awareness of what they're doing to other people as well. Obviously, I'm using it in a different context, but Steve will speak more to that. I'm on your side. I want to help you, but I can't if you speak to me this way. These are things that you could say during this time. And obviously, I don't want you to get verbally abused or harassed or anything like that, because sometimes people do get to that point where there's actually fitting the definition of harassment. Get your supervisor if necessary. But I want you to obviously maintain your situational awareness. I want you to obviously tell this person to please, I'm on your side, I want to solve this. But if they're getting worse and worse and worse, get your supervisor involved right away. If it goes any further, basically violence is likely to occur. You want to protect yourself and other people. Now, some things that I want you to keep in mind is what's on your desk, okay? What is on your desk? Are there any things that are there anything that could be used as a weapon? Like when I teach this to the people at the assisted living locations, I tell them, listen, when you go into a patient's room, a resident's room, if they have mid-stage dementia, some of them can't communicate anymore, so what they do is that they communicate by doing things. And some of them sometimes get angry. I tell them, keep at least 12 inches of space between you and that person. In addition to that, you better watch out about the things that are in the surrounding area because, look, you might think that grandma doesn't have the ability to lift up that cane, but watch how quick she lifts up that cane when you try to remove something, and she'll beat you with that thing, okay? And trust me, it has happened. This one guy, she was hoarding, like, napkins and cupcakes and something. He took all of her napkins and cupcakes because, again, they were rotting, and those were her treasures, right? And so the next time he saw her and he went in the room, she literally picked up her cane, or no, I'm sorry, they had just mopped her floor. It was the sign that says, be careful, slippery when wet. Pick that up, start slapping him on the head with it. Again, you want to, trust me, if grandma could do it, anybody else can too. So protect yourself, protect other people, watch your surroundings, watch your desk, be smart about what you have around your neck, your hair, your earrings, things of that sort. What can people grab? Because trust me, when somebody gets to this stage, they will do anything. And I'm sure Steve will give you more and more examples of that. So why do they share these models? Why are high-performance teams teaching these models to people? Because of the fact that, look, when we teach this to hospitals, guess what happens to patient safety? It increases. medical errors decrease, teamwork increases, and I'm not talking by a little bit, I'm talking by 50% or more, and we've studied this. So there's tons of evidence about it. When you teach this stuff to universities and they actually adopt it, again, you're looking at a better communication, better teamwork, increased safety as well. It helps you prepare, puts you in the right frame of mind, lets you avoid potentially dangerous situations, and promotes the safety of the organization. And it adopts applicable tools into your team. So now I'm going to switch this over to Steve. Steve is a colleague of mine who is a corporate security and investigations professional. He has 27 years of law enforcement in his background. That includes 10 years of operational command level management in both the criminal investigations and supportive services divisions, 5 years of corporate security, multi-site. There's a lot of stuff. He's a big professional. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so please welcome Steve.
Thank you. Good morning. How do I follow that? I follow that by going past this slide. Okay, just real briefly, my law enforcement career helped me prepare for my private security challenges. Leaving law enforcement, I walked into a corporate security environment, and I was charged with utilizing very minimal staff to protect a very large facility, very large site. So one of the things I realized is that I couldn't do it alone. It was basically a partnership and a perception and a feeling, and I needed to empower the people on our site and get them part of my team. So one of the things I was thinking about in preparing with this presentation was safety and security. What makes us feel safe? Looking at this picture, how many people, if this was your home, you would feel comfortable, you'd feel, I'm protected when I sleep? Raise of hands. Okay, few, you probably feel like me. When I see this, I'm in a bad neighborhood. I pull off a highway and I see homes with bars on them. My perception is that it's probably not a good place to be. Everybody's familiar with this, the city lunch, and the idea is there's a difference between feeling safe and being safe. I think both of them play a part. In this case, I wouldn't find myself here, but those people feel very comfortable because what they have is they have confidence. They have confidence in themselves, they have confidence in handling the situation, where they're going to be, what they're going to do, and the environment around them. So safety and security is as much a feeling as it is a reality. Now, what part do we as individuals have in the safety of our campus, in the safety around us? Do we play a part in that? Are we part of making ourselves feel safe? Any thoughts? We begin with a partnership. We partner with our campus police, our campus security, and our community. Security begins with awareness, and it develops into a partnership, and it includes frontline people. Everybody here plays a part of your safety and your security. Whether it be the receptionist, the security personnel, even the students, they all play a part, a very significant part, in becoming your eyes and ears. Campus security, campus police, they're going to give you some of the tools, the gates, the walls, the cameras. But really, safety and security is multi-layered. It starts from your community, being a good partner, having a good relationship with the community that you are in, the environment that you're in. In my corporate security environment, what had happened was we were good neighbors. So our good neighbors, being a good neighbor, oftentimes when things were not just right, we would get calls from our neighbors. And they would tell us, listen, I just want to let you know there's a situation that you may not be aware of. You also have your policies, your procedures, your facility responses, down to your employees, the controls, and your policies. Raising your security awareness is critical in becoming and having a successful program. Management helps, and they devise and develop the programs, and everyone should be aware of their responsibilities. Management promotes the commitment through training. So you're getting training today, but it's an ongoing situation. You're being trained every day. Your part is to be aware of it and to realize what you can do to contribute. By developing a security awareness program, you become part of it, and you know how to react in a time of crisis. We rely on our training, we exercise our awareness, and we know what to do. This is Homeland Security is playing a very critical role in developing training and awareness programs, because they recognize that issues that affect us affect not only an isolated campus or an isolated business, but they're far-reaching. We're seeing incidents of terrorism, which was discussed briefly before, and a lot of times people are attempting to get information about your site, your location, or your business. This is a training video that they've put out to talk about how important it is for every one of your staff who have communication, who have involvement with people, on how to react. Let's see here. Let's see if you guys. Now, bear with me a second. Oh, here we go.
Good morning, Mr. Lawson's office. Barbara speaking.
Good morning, ma'am. How you doing today?
Good morning. Fine, and yourself?
Good, good. My name's Jake, and I'm calling from Standard Security in the tri-state area, and we're doing some informal surveys with selected companies throughout the state. I wonder if you can answer a couple of questions for us this morning.
Oh, okay, Jake, and I'm sorry, Standard Security?
Yes.
What type of a firm company is that?
Oh, we're security. Security. Yes.
Okay. And your prime purpose of?
We're new to the area, and we're just polling some companies, doing some basic information on their security.
Like a survey type thing?
Yes,
okay.
exactly. If we can ask you a couple of questions and you can help us out, we'd appreciate that.
Where is your company located, Jake?
Well, as I said, we're new to the area.
Okay.
We're setting up in North Jersey, Central, South, and in the tri-state area, actually.
Okay.
So,
Alrighty. Okay. Alrighty, how can we help you?
well, first off, how many employees do you have in your company? Do you know that offhand?
No, I don't. We have a human resources department.
You have an approximate
They would
number,
be
by
able
chance?
to- No, off the top of
Ballpark
my
figure?
head, no.
No? You can't take a guess?
No, I'd have to check with our human resources department on that.
Okay. How about as far as your security? You have cameras in the parking lots for your employees? Is it fenced in
I'm not at
parking?
liberty to,
How
talk
do your
about
employees
that.
get into the building?
We have
They
a
have cards or
security-
anything like that?
We
or-
have a security department. They'd be able to answer those
Well,
questions.
How do you get into the
I'm
building,
not
man?
at
Let me
liberty
ask you that.
to talk
You can
about
probably
that.
answer that for me.
Again, we have a
Use a
security
card to get into the
department.
building?
Well, Jake, how about if you give me a callback number and I'll have someone call you back, with the answers to these questions.
Actually, I don't really. I'm just using my cell phone today, and we're kind of, like I said, we're new to the area. I haven't really
Okay,
settled
that's
in
fine.
yet. And how about I
Alright,
just call
if
you
give
back?
me- why don't
Can
you
I
give
do
me
that?
your cell phone number?
Well, how about I
and
just
we'll
call
have
you back
someone
at a
call
better
you
time?
back.
That'll work for me.
This is fine.
You can get that information, and I'll give
No,
you a
this
call
way,
back a little
as
bit
soon
later in
as
the
we
day.
hang up, I'll have someone from these areas, check out the information and they'll call you back.
You know what? I can just call you back. It's really not a problem.
No, that's, you sure you can leave
That's
your cell
absolutely
phone number?
not a problem. Thank you for your time.
You sure? Hello? Hello? Jake? Hello? Mr. Lawson, this is Barbara. I just received a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Jake. He said he's with Standard Security, with several offices in North, Central, South Jersey, the tri-state area. He was very limited on information about himself, but he was asking quite a few questions about our company, as far as how many employees we have housed here, what type of security we have, how we're able to get into the building, if we have any cameras. You know, again, he didn't leave me a callback number, and I happened to glance at the phone, and it came up a payphone. So I just thought I would bring this to your attention. I will contact our security department. Yes. That, I was just going to suggest that I have the flyer right here with the number on it. I certainly will. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, let's see. 1-866-4-SAFE NJ. Okay. Yes, good morning. My name is Barbara. I'm calling from...
Okay, in this particular video and scenario, what it's showing us is training is pretty important, and getting the idea that you have programs in play is important, but understanding what your responsibility and how to react to them is just as important. In this case, Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness has a program that they have pushed out, and it's accessible to private corporations, schools, businesses, pretty much everyone, to let you report information that you may have that's kind of suspicious. Additionally, there is an application here which I want to share with you, and this is pretty important as far as sharing information when it comes to terroristic threats or concerns that you have. Oftentimes, or not oftentimes, but probably about once a year, my wife and I play tourist, and we go into New York City. We play hooky, we take the day, and we ride that double-decker bus. And we're riding around, we're enjoying the sights of the city. One particular afternoon, what happened with us is we noticed, or at least I noticed, initially an individual that took very, very specific interest in what would be critical infrastructures. There were bridges. When we pulled behind the Brooklyn Bridge, this person wanted to knock everyone down to get to the corner of the bus and take pictures. We went past a mosque, and the same thing. It caused me such concern, but it also caused me confusion because I didn't know what to do. Here I'm sitting here and I'm going, okay, 27 years in law enforcement, I've got corporate security, I've lived quite a few years here. I should know what to do, but I don't. And part of what I do is I teach security personnel to be prepared for a certification in the state of New Jersey. This was shared with me, and I included as part of my training. This application is downloadable. It's downloadable on your phones, whether they be iPhones or Androids. You just look up Safe New Jersey, and in this case, you can document what you see in a photo, in your location, and any details. It could be anonymously, or it could be with your information, your contact information. It will give you the location of your report. You can add any subject information, any vehicle information, and it is critical to have on your phones and share. Again, this is not specific to the university here, but it is specific to any time you know, raising your awareness. Now we move into more of a situational awareness. I wouldn't want to be in the convertible behind this truck. How many people have gotten on planes and they tell you, you know, to be aware of your surroundings and look behind you because the closest exit might be right behind you? Oftentimes, we don't realize that. We don't look at our resources. We don't look at what we can do in an emergency because we're so caught up in our own lives and our own situations and our own problems that we're not aware. And awareness is paramount. Your situational awareness basically is the ability to identify, process, and comprehend changes in your life. It's more than just knowing what's going around. You have to be mentally prepared to adapt to change. The eye sees only what the mind is prepared to comprehend. You can improve your situational awareness by being aware of your environment and identifying the things that are normal and things that change. By being aware and being prepared, you're better adapt to that change. And projecting into the future, anticipating the change will be very, very helpful for you. Bear with me one second. To be ready is very, very important. When we walk into our home, whether we live alone or we live with other people, you walk into your home and you notice when something's different. Whether it be glass on the counter, a cupboard left open, you're aware of it. A lot of times you're spending equal amount of time here at work. So pay attention to the things that are changing in your environment. Oftentimes when we hear about workplace violence and active shooting incidents and people getting hurt and killed, what happens on the news? You always find that one person that is standing in front of the camera saying, "I noticed the change. He or she was acting strange for weeks." But the question is, what did we do about it? And do we have a mechanism to handle it? Everybody notices it, but nobody knows what to do with it. I ask the question often, what happens at 4 o'clock on a Friday when somebody comes to you and says, "This person has made crazy remarks, and I'm concerned"? Are you prepared to handle that, to deal with it, and do you know where to go? The preparation is key in situational awareness. And here's some things to do to prepare yourselves for situational awareness opportunities and to better your position. Whether it be a blocked fire escape or a roadblock on your way home, the idea is, do you have an alternate plan? What would happen is if you experienced an emergency situation, you knew what you were going to do, but when you got into it, that plan or that option wasn't available. Also, awareness. Take time to notice the potential threats around you. We talked about the backpack. We talked about the unattended package. Do you have a plan? Do you know what you would do when you encounter that? Additionally, very important is trusting your gut. How many people have gone to shopping malls and felt very comfortable in the shopping mall, but now they're going out to the parking deck, they're using the elevator, they push the elevator door, it opens up, and there may be somebody in that elevator that they don't feel comfortable with. Are you going to get into the elevator? Well, chances are we probably will. We'll feel uncomfortable. And the reason being is we don't feel we have an alternative. We don't know if we can do anything different other than to walk in that elevator. We didn't have a plan. Oftentimes when you question yourself that something is wrong or overreacting, you have a fight or flight instinct. Feel it, know it, anticipate it, and be prepared for it. Stop the complacency, okay? Two of the most challenges are poor motivation and the fact that we don't think anything other than the norm is going to happen. The idea is that it may, and we have to be prepared for it. Control your timing. Another thing that's important in your preparation is don't rush. Get your plans in place, allow for enough time, and be ready for any changes that may occur. And then constantly reevaluate your situation. Recognize, interpret, reevaluate, understanding the situation using your knowledge and the previous experiences of what is right and what is wrong. By planning ahead, you can basically prepare for potential outcomes and positive outcomes. Avoiding fatigue and staying alert plays an important role as well, and being alert again to those changes. The other thing is monitoring others. How many of us walk around and we're fixated on what we're doing? We need to minimize our distractions when we're in situations where we can be targets. Facts change over time. Be consistently alert and be prepared to adapt. You know, how would we use situational awareness in the workplace? Well, number one, it manages our fears. The fears that we have, the things that paralyze us, the things that brought you here today were that you have certain type fears, your concerns, or at least, if not necessarily fears, but concerns. Developing an action plan, developing a game plan puts us back in control. You know, some of the things that keep us up at night, I guess this is where I've got to ask, what are some concerns, and Lieutenant Gorman's here, what are concerns that you have that keep you up at night? What are things that make you feel that you're not safe, whether it be at home, whether it be driving home, whether it be here, or what do you think things could be done better? Any ideas, any suggestions? Is everybody comfortable with their work environment? Do they have suggestions? Do they have things that they would be, you know, even in your personal lives, are there things that you could do to change to become more aware of your situation? When you prepare for the unexpected, you are ready to encounter things head on. You know, we talked about the suspicious package, and I'm not going to go into that. Lieutenant Gorman did a great job, but in essence, the transition from the situational awareness does include things like packages. What I did in my post-law enforcement and pre-security careers, I wound up working at the airport for a year. I worked there. I love to travel, and one of the benefits of working for the airlines is you get to travel for free. A suitcase or a carry-on left in a waiting area full of people waiting for a plane, unattended with maybe a coat over it or newspaper on it, wouldn't necessarily raise your concerns. But once the plane leaves, and that's the only thing left at the gate, obviously that is concerning. So no matter how you arrive at the circumstances, when there is a change of status, you need to consider, again, the package being suspicious, notify your law enforcement, the campus police, university police, I should say, and let them respond. Just briefly, as part of situational awareness, and I'm not looking to get into areas that are not in my expertise for your training, but one of the things I like to talk about is just the idea of swatting. Does anybody know what swatting is? Has anybody heard the term? Okay. Swatting initially started a few years ago with the online gamers. What they would do is they would call law enforcement and report some type of a critical situation, an active shooter, a very violent situation, and they would monitor as the police broke into the person's home and threw him to the ground and arrested him. That has become national and social media attention, and it started happening around the country and involving not only online gamers, but universities and private businesses. And part of what they do is they look to see how you're going to respond. If you're one of those people taking those calls, you should be made aware of it, and you should also understand what you can do to mitigate those circumstances. The number of incidents in New Jersey in 2015 included over 200. They were primarily directed at schools, malls, and hospitals. And going back last year, 22 schools were disrupted on one particular day with that swatting incident. So in speaking to swatting, it's also part of an awareness, overall awareness of what's happening in the community. Being aware of your surroundings, but also being aware of what's in the news and how it affects you. Currently, the penalties were enhanced, and it's punishable up to 10 years and a $150,000 fine. But that's just a little bit about the things that are happening around you and being aware. Any questions that I could take, or any of us could take? Lieutenant Gorman's still here. Lori's here. Anything we can discuss? Lori, you done? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to come and speak with you. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.